A Tale of Joseph, a study in 4 tests of his life. The tests experienced in Joseph's life are 4: the pit, stewardship, power, and forgiveness. The pit test is a trial one falls into during life's journey, often without having done anything particularly wrong. This test can only be overcome with God's help. Through this test, we truly encounter God and learn to rely solely on Him. The stewardship test is a lifelong journey of dedication to God, from the start of a committed life until its end. It describes the entire process of a saved believer living as a person of God. It is another expression of living coram Deo, in the presence of God. The stewardship test is the message the saints give to the world and what the world should learn from them. The power test begins when God chooses to use His people as leaders in this world for its restoration. The final test is that of forgiveness. Joseph's life illustrates why the forgiveness test comes last. The end of a life held in God's hand is not about decline, but about encompassing the whole world. It's about embracing all the hurts, pains, successes, and fulfillments of life's journey. Passing the forgiveness test brings about true blessing. The end of such a life is marked by blessing the next generation, as planned by God. Joseph's life was a series of these tests. Now, let us delve into the 4 tests experienced by Joseph. First, the pit test. In our life's journey, there are many pits. The psalmist's song about being lifted out of a horrible pit and the miry clay reflects our reality well. When we encounter the pit test in life's journey, we should think of Joseph. The Bible mentions that the pit Joseph fell into had no water, signifying a situation of extreme survival. In that pit, Joseph not only felt the threat to his life but likely also experienced deep emotional scars. His own brothers were the ones who sought to kill him. They ignored Joseph's pleas for help, mockingly enjoying his desperate requests. Joseph's pit was a place of confusion, filled with chaotic and distressing noises. However, a pit has an open top, suggesting the possibility of rescue from above. Shouting for help in the pit could lead to being heard and rescued by someone passing by. The key to passing the pit test is clinging only to God. This is to experience His rescue. In the pit, the task is simple: reflect on one's faults while relying on God. Never give up hope in God, because He always rescues His children. Second, the stewardship test. A steward is a servant of the master. The stewardship test is a process of confirming this relationship. Being the master's person means living solely for the master's benefit. It is a great joy for someone to live for and according to the will of the master. For the steward, the master's will is crystal clear, leaving no need for other considerations. He faithfully carries out the master's will with conviction, doing only what benefits the master. The steward's happiness is entirely intertwined with the master's benefit. In relationships with others, the steward engages only in those that benefit the master, seeking relationships that are helpful to the master. The steward finds happiness in the master. There is no source of provision other than what the master provides. As such, the steward depends on the master, but the master is so good and powerful that he has never failed to provide what is needed. The steward works for the master's purposes. At the end, he sits down with the master to evaluate the work entrusted to him. For the good steward, this moment is the greatest joy of life, as commendation is assured. Understanding and adopting the correct attitude of a steward means having passed the stewardship test. Third, the power test. It's important to remember that the power test is not about receiving power after passing a test, but about being tested after power is already in one's hands. Therefore, this test is challenging to pass. If we fail this test, it's not merely about not obtaining power, our life itself becomes a failure, and it can cause difficulties for many people. As the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Passing the power test is difficult without significant discipline. The essence of the power test is similar to the stewardship test. It is crucial not to mistake the immense power and authority in our hands as our own. Thus, it can be seen as an extension of the stewardship test. The power test can be divided into 3 areas. First is maintaining current blessings while preparing for the future. Second is transforming difficult times into greater blessings through prepared reserves, thus benefiting many people. The third is not coveting a position that one should not aspire to. Pharaoh had only the position, but Joseph never coveted his position. Similarly, we should not fill God's throne in our hearts with our ego. A person who is alive to their own benefits cannot pass the power test. Lastly, the forgiveness test. There is a saying that forgiveness is a divine act. True forgiveness is challenging, signifying a test that must be passed in the maturation of faith. Those who learn to forgive are capable of divine acts. Without aligning with God's heart and understanding His sovereign rule, it's impossible to genuinely forgive those who have caused deep wounds in life. The last test Joseph passed was about forgiveness. Forgiving his brothers, who threw him into a pit, enjoyed his suffering while he cried out in extreme fear and hunger, is undoubtedly a difficult test. However, when Joseph passed the forgiveness test, he gained the ability to bless others. Just as blessing others is a divine act, so is forgiving them. There is power in the blessings of those who know how to forgive.